Hi everyone, this is Heather Lottenden from the Flourish.Academy. This is our weekly Q&A. I'm super excited. Hey, could you do me a favor? If you like this video, could you like it? Or maybe share or subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, first question comes from Michelle. She says, what are the pros and cons of the D850 versus the D750? She's talking about Nikon, of course. They just released the D850. Is the D850 practical for weddings, or are the file sizes still massive like the D810? Oh, many of you know the file sizes on the D810 are so giant. If you're shooting in RAW, it can be almost a little bit crippling. Okay, it definitely is. Well, last week, Robbie and Jim from YM Camera were kind enough to let me tag along at their big convention in Florida. And while I was there, I got to, oh, that's backwards. I forgot to flip the camera. I wonder if I can do that while we're talking. Let us see here. I didn't mean to flip it that way. Let me click the settings. Whoa, did you see that? And do that horizontal flip. Is that, there we go. That worked. Okay, the D850 from Nikon. I got my hands on one. I was playing with it. No, I don't have it here. I don't have one I can play with at home, but the nice guy that I met from Nikon allowed me to play with the camera, so I was picking it up, I was looking at it, and I said to him, hey yo, what about these file sizes? You know, it's really crazy how big some of these file sizes get. It just becomes obnoxious. The files are slow. We have to buy more memory cards, more hard drive space, more backup space, and he said, I did not know this until he showed me, on the D850, I even wrote it down. On the D850, you now have a small, medium, raw option. And the files right out of the D850, the megapixels, ooh, they're pretty big still because it's a hefty camera, 45 megapixels when you're shooting raw, 45 megapixel file. Ooh, that's a big one. But in the medium size, it's 25, and in the small, it's 11, which I believe is much more manageable. That, for me, was a deal breaker with the D810. So the fact that they did this, and you can see all of the specifications here, I'm actually one of those people that takes these books, I study it, especially in the back where they give you all of the specifications. It's fascinating. And they chose to compare the D850 to the D5 and the D750. So you can see all of the different specifications. So if you have any other specific questions on that, I can certainly answer it. Okay, but besides that, Michelle, you're asking about some of the other pros and cons. Because I haven't had a chance to actually shoot with one, I don't have any more information than that. But I will say this, my good friend Neil got his hands on one and did a really thorough review. He's a very technical guy. Once we're done here, I will post a link to his review and you can definitely check it out. I think it's a pretty nice camera. Would I get rid of a 750 in lieu of an 850? Probably not, but I would still like to play with one and see what's up. Okay, Nicole says, is golden hour in the fall the same as golden hour in the summer? I'm trying to plan for mini holiday sessions and deciding on when, how late to offer outside sessions is nerve-wracking. Oh, Nicole, I don't want that for you. Okay, is it different? Well, it certainly feels different. Now, the sun will rise and set in different parts of the horizon depending on the time of year. And there are only 2 times of the year where the sun rises in the true east and sets in the true west. And then it moves between those two, varying degrees and such. I've paid attention to it on my homestead, on where true east is and where true west is, and then the way the sun flows throughout the year. It feels different in the fall because a couple of things are happening. Besides it's in a little bit of a different position, the leaves are starting to change and there are fewer leaves. So there's less diffusion. It comes through the trees differently and it has obviously a different color and feel to it because instead of reflecting off of nothing but green, it's now reflecting off of a variety of different fall colors, which is quite beautiful. So I find the fall golden hour to just be amazing. There's just nothing like it. My absolute favorite time to shoot. Now, there are websites that will tell you when the sun sets, when golden hour is. There's a website called, wait for it, golden hour. You can check it out and it will tell you based on your time zone, the settings and the time of day, and that's fine. But you have to start to understand the difference between golden hour, which then flows into something called blue hour, which then hits into civil twilight, nautical twilight, and then astronomical twilight. And that's based on the angle of the horizon. So you can look all of that up if you're interested, but it's really not that difficult to calculate. You want to calculate when the sun is going to set, so that would be when civil twilight starts, or actually the blue hour if you want to get really specific. So you need to know that time, and you need to add in margin. So in my mind, if I knew that civil twilight was starting at say 7:15, in my mind, well, I'm very risk averse and conservative. I would probably want to end my sessions by 6:45, a half an hour prior to complete loss of light. You know, when the sun goes down behind the horizon, that's it. So I would then work my way backwards. How long do typical sessions take for you? Or how long are you allocating for those sessions? What is the margin in between? And work your way backwards, and that shouldn't be a problem. Also, really, really cool app. I'm gonna bring it up and show you. You definitely wanna check out. Have you guys ever heard of Photo Pills? Photopills.com. It's an app, and you can put it on your phone, obviously, iPhone or Android device. Watch the video. It is really high tech and has a ton of data, and the way the light shines through, it's fancy. I really like it. It's a paid app. It is not a free app, but I mean, I think it's like $9.99, which is nothing. But when you guys see a $9.99 app, you're like, holy moly, it's like $1 million. It's not, and it's really, really nice. So check that out. You can go to the US Navy's website. You can go to goldenhour.com and find these times. You can put them in your planner. When I was shooting 30 weddings a year, as soon as a wedding would book in my planner, I would write the sunset time. And I would know based on that what I was up against, or when I might want to take them outside, or what does their schedule look like. I could work with the bride. As a photographer, I think it's very, very important, good information to have. I hope that helps you. There was more to that question. Michelle added on and said, how do you successfully market mini sessions to fill the spots? This is a really big question, Michelle, and I'll tackle it at a high level, but I feel like we could do probably a whole class on that. Okay, a couple of things. If you're a new photographer, it is obviously going to be a little bit more challenging to get mini sessions filled because people haven't heard of you, or you don't have the brand recognition and awareness. You can still do it. You just will have to probably put in more effort to marketing, to creating awareness. Maybe that means paid Facebook ads. I'm not sure, or getting out in your community and meeting people, or putting flyers up in certain places. I mean, we could discuss a whole marketing strategy around that, but I have seen more established photographers do much better with mini sessions because they already have clients. So let's say, for instance, you're a photographer and you've been in business a few years, and you've probably raised your prices a few times. You probably had a few pricing iterations. Well, at some point, you can sometimes lose your base. So the clients that could afford you when you were brand new are not the same clients you might be getting now. So when you offer mini sessions, you are marketing directly to your past clients. They know you, they love you, they just can't afford your new pricing, but they can absolutely afford your minis. So that's why you'll see established photographers with mini sessions that fill immediately. If they put in any effort at all, and by that I mean they get in touch with their past clients, they'll be able to fill those slots pretty quickly. Again, it's a little bit harder if you're newer because you don't have that base, but it is still possible. I think the key here, the mistake I see people making, is they're not planning. They're like, I'm gonna offer mini sessions, here's the date and time, I posted a couple times, nobody was interested, I didn't book it, I'm done. Crickets. It takes a little bit more than that, ladies. You have to put yourself out there. You have to, if you're theming them, then you need to set up the scene, take photos of the scene, share that scene repeatedly. You have to possibly boost or run Facebook ads on posts. Not a lot of money, $5 a day, whatever you want in your local area. And again, you have to really know, we've talked about this a lot, you have to really know who you're targeting. Who are you trying to get to book these mini sessions? If you don't know that answer, you will never successfully market your sessions, because that means you're trying to talk to everyone, and that means you're not talking to anyone. Remember how we always say, you cannot be vanilla in a pumpkin spice world. If you're talking to everyone, no one is listening. It just becomes noise and they tune you out. You have to know very specifically who you are trying to market to, and then you go find them. Once you find them, you know where they're at, you find where they're at, and then you talk to them and you make friends. And maybe you create little, I don't know, brand ambassadors or something. You find somebody in your target market, which you have very clearly defined, and you say to them, hey, I'm gonna set up these mini sessions. I'm gonna do this particular scene. I want to practice with it. Can I come take a few photos of you? You know, I'll just give you the photos, no charge or whatever. And if you could just show them, share them, and tell everybody about what I'm doing, and it's in the same scene that you're going to be using, you have a lot more luck, because you'll be able to show people what you're doing. You use that brand ambassador in terms of influencer marketing, you know, somebody who is influential in your target market. Big question, Michelle. A lot goes into marketing mini sessions effectively, but I think people just list them and hope that people are going to book, and then it doesn't happen. If you are starting your photography business, or if you've been in business for a while, I highly recommend that you have an email list of your clients, always, ongoing, adding to, always, always, always. So every year when you offer mini sessions, it gets easier. Every year it starts to become more consistent. People expect it. Oh, she's going to offer mini sessions, and some people will even wait for that to happen. I have photographer friends that do very well because their clients, their past clients, are waiting for them to offer mini sessions. They snag them up in a minute. They fill in no time at all. No problemo. Hopefully that helps at least a little bit. Jessica asks, should you limit the number of people in a family session? I've seen some photographers indicate that a session for X number of people and then charge extra for each additional person. I'm rather new to the business and have had people bring extras to be in their family portraits, so I can understand why photographers set a limit. But I'm curious as to what's the most appropriate way to address extras. Thanks. This is a very good question, and Brooke replied to it. My friend Brooke has 18 kids. Okay, she has 4. But there's a multiplier in effect here. She says, I would suggest limiting it to immediate family only. I certainly understand the need to set limits, but as a family of 6, paying an additional fee for 2 of my children is not something I want to do. So she makes a very good point. You may not want to set a specific number, but you might want to say these sessions are for the immediate family only. If you'd like to add more, contact me and we can talk about it. I've always been pretty flexible in this area, but I've also never had anyone take advantage of it. So, and I know that some people have, where they've had a family session and then, you know, 3 sets of aunts and uncles and cousins show up. Well, my thoughts are, if you communicate properly and you have things set up so that people understand what you're doing, things like that should not happen to you. Okay, they might happen once. If it happens once, then you learn and you put a policy in place and you figure it out. If it continues to happen, then we need to talk about communication and paying attention, or I don't know, there's probably some other type of issue. But I typically make my money up front, so I don't do IPS, but even if I did, if somebody brought some extra people, I think I would welcome it. Unless it became chaotic, which it wouldn't because I would manage it, I would love to take photos of them with their aunts and uncles and say, yeah, let's make this happen. Again, no one's ever taken advantage of that with me, so I don't have a reason to set, you know, really rigid guidelines. I can understand why people do, but I would just be open and flexible when somebody does want to bring additional people, because you're a professional photographer, they want nice photos, and that's great, and they want to use you. So I would also say, Jess, that this really, to a large degree, is personal preference. How do you want to structure your business in your sessions, and do what fits with that and kind of feels right for you. Hope that helps. Colleen says, I'm thinking of going from crop sensor to full sensor. Oh, that's a big deal. I shoot Nikon. In doing so, what details do I need to be considering? Lenses, memory cards, computer storage, processing. How will these things change or be affected by switching over? I'm currently shooting a D7100 and I'm looking at both the 750 and the 850. Well, that's very exciting, Colleen, and smart of you to consider what I would call the cost of ownership, because it is beyond the camera. Certainly, these cameras will have larger file sizes, so you may need to purchase additional SD cards. You may need to look at your backup strategy or your hard drive space, but that's going to happen kind of over time regardless. You know, that's not a huge deal breaker for me, although it was, as I mentioned earlier, it was with the D810. I just could not. Those files are just so big. But in the cases of the 750 and now the 850, it's manageable. You could manage that for sure. In terms of lenses, it depends on what lenses you have. There are some lenses that are made only for crop sensor cameras. I can't remember which ones you have, but I feel like you have at least a couple that work on both cameras. So you would definitely want to look at that. However, I will say that going to a full frame camera, I would highly recommend, if you can, keeping your D7100 and associated lenses, whether they work with the new one or not, as your backup. So some people need to or want to sell their old gear in order to get new gear, that's fine. But if you can swing it, I would keep it as a backup, and then you could still use whatever you have. And I know that Robbie replied to this message as well, and that you guys have been talking, so I will let him take it from there, but hopefully that helps. My friend Lynn says, what color space do you use? In camera, in Lightroom, Photoshop, etc. Is it Adobe, sRGB, question mark? I use sRGB. The sRGB color space is the lowest common denominator. It is the smallest color space, and if you look at a diagram of color spaces, you can see that like the Adobe RGB color space is much larger than sRGB, but the lowest common denominator is your lab. So whatever your lab is using, I would recommend that that's how you shoot and edit. Why? Oh, you might be thinking, no, I want to use that big, ginormous Adobe RGB color space. Okay, but hold on here, friend. If you start editing in that color space and you love it and it's perfect, and then you go to convert it, you're going to be sad. I don't want that for you. You're going to be sad because the colors are going to shift, because the colors that are in Adobe RGB are not all present in sRGB. And I'll look up a diagram and see if I can find one that shows how they overlap. There's obviously a lot of overlap, but the Adobe RGB color space is bigger. I shoot and edit in the lowest common denominator so that there are no surprises. Everything is nice and even. I hope that helps. Mary says, pricing question. When shooting for friends and non-immediate family members, do you have any recommendations on how to determine what is an appropriate discount, % off? I feel this is a sticky situation as I want to help out, but I also feel my time is worth something. Your time is definitely worth something. That's completely a personal preference. What do you want it to be? I would say this. You have to determine Mary's happy price. Heather has a happy price, and there's a price that I'm just not willing to do it for less than. So I set that, and I determined something that's fair, that makes me feel good, that I'm still happy to do it and I'm not resentful of doing it, and something that gives them a little bit of a break or discount. We've talked about this in the past as well. If you have certain people in your life or charities that you want to give to freely, then that's your decision based on what you value. I have friends that I shoot for free every once in a while because we're very close with them and I don't want them to pay me money. But then I have other friends that I offer the friends and family discount, and I try to keep it pretty consistent. So you just have to determine what makes sense. It really also depends on your pricing and the model. I mean, there are a lot of factors to consider, but the most important one is, what is Mary's happy price? Once you determine that, then you can figure out, okay, does 10%, 25%, 50%, what makes sense for you? Tara says, if one sensor point on the Canon 6D isn't focusing, is there an easy fix for this? The rest of the sensor points work fine, no problem, but the one to the left of my center, my second favorite, is toast right now. That's really sad. So the focus points are not working. That is a bummer. I have no clue. That's very technical. I would say, without question, you need to send it in. I would send it into Canon and have them take a look at it and tell them what's happening, and they'll fix it. There's really, I don't think, a way around that. I've never heard of an easy fix for a focus point not working. So I'm sorry. I think you're gonna have to send it in, but never fear, you can rent gear while it's gone, and I mean, work with it as long as you can, or if it's really bothering you, send it in and rent gear until you get it fixed. I hope that helps. There was another question in the group I wanted to see. Let me scroll here, and if you have any additional questions, you can absolutely post them below. All right. I feel like my friend Charlie asked something about business cards, and I'm looking for it. Maybe yesterday she posted it. I found it. Sorry. Charlie says, can we talk business cards? Has anyone done a card with no website or Facebook page on it? What have some of you done for a card in regards to just starting out? I have some pictures for my portfolio, but not a lot. What do I do? In regards to a website or Facebook page, how do you advertise yourself with hardly any pictures? Do I just make a plain business card? I feel clients are going to want to see some pictures before they hire me, right? I find myself having people ask me for info or cards, but I don't have any, so I would like to create one. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. I would obviously be photographing as much as you can, because you can post your personal photos and those count as your work, your portfolio. I would create a Facebook page, even if you feel like you're not ready, just get it up there. And on a business card, I would keep it very straightforward and simple. If you want, it could just literally be your name, phone number, and email. And that's it. I wouldn't recommend putting one of your photos on your business card. Just keep it clean and simple at first until you evolve in your style and your photography and what you're going to focus on. Now, I would take that one step further. I would recommend creating a Facebook page today, right now. You can create it right now, and you're going to have a URL. It's going to be facebook.com/whatever. Okay, I would not put that on my business card, but what I would do is I would jump on over to GoDaddy.com and I would buy a domain name, yourphotographyname.com. Come up with it, whatever you want to own, see if it's available, find one that's available, and buy it. That's going to be about $9 for the year. $9, go buy a domain name. You do not have to set up a website yet. But what you can do is purchase that domain name and then forward it to your Facebook page until you get your website set up. That way, on your business card, it can have your name, phone number, email, and your website. But if somebody types in that website, it will just forward them to your Facebook page where they can see what you have for a portfolio. Do not let the fact that you only have a few images stop you. Do it today. You have to get started in order to add more information to it. And trust me, putting something out there is better than putting nothing. So you can do that really easily. If you have any questions, Charlie, just let me know. But it's actually very simple to buy a .com on GoDaddy, and then don't buy hosting yet or plan, and then just forward that domain to your Facebook page, and then people have somewhere they can find you. Hopefully that helps. Hey, you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.